Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on.
Did you tell Kivins we're not coming tomorrow?
Yeah, to when we come Sunday. Okay, well, we're back again.
Hello.
Hello. And Lindsay has graciously joined us this evening.
Again.
Again. Yeah.
Should we have changed clothes?
Yeah, we should. Actually, we're recording 3 different episodes in one sitting. So actually, yeah, we haven't worn the same clothes for the last few
Yeah, I
days.
know people think that that's what I do.
Yeah, that you wear the same clothes.
This is our talk time close.
Yeah, yeah. Even though Doug had to remove the little sticker. Where did
Was
you
that
get that?
new?
Yeah, it was a new shirt.
From
So-
someone get it for you as a gift?
It was probably a
I
gift.
think my mommy gave it to
Your
me.
mommy gave it to you. It looks nice. I like it. We'll have to thank Nana Miller.
Covers all the fat.
Oh, you're not fat. We're gonna work out.
That was convincing.
Huh.
Yeah, you're not
Oh,
fat.
you're not
Okay,
fat.
no,
Let's keep
no,
going.
we're gonna work out in the new year. We're gonna get buff.
Dad already works out every day. I bet you burn so many calories.
He does, but
Not,
then
not through the winter, through the summer we do.
the
but
summertime more, you know.
plus
then-
I'm getting older, so it doesn't burn off
Yeah.
quite as quick.
Yeah, but men seem to lose weight faster. All you'll have to do is cut out a piece of bread today and you'll lose 10 pounds.
I know, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
But you know the Millers, we can't cut out that piece of bread.
No, why would you want to cut out bread? It's like, really, is it really worth the losing of the weight? To
Well,
like lose your bread?
I
don't know.
am gonna
It's
try
up in
to,
the
I am
air.
gonna try to cut down on carbs a little bit. I cannot go on a no carb diet, but I can go on a moderate carb diet. So if
Oh,
I
why?
just,
Why?
well, you know, there again, like your dad said, the older we get, it's harder to maintain what I could eat when I was just 5 or 10 years younger. I can't eat today and maintain that weight. And if I don't start at a certain point, look at Doug, look at it. If I don't start at a certain point, it's just gonna keep going and going
But
and
how many hours a
going.
day do you exercise?
Huh?
How many hours a day do you
Oh, I don't hours a day. I probably walk about a half hour in the morning and a half hour in the evening.
Oh.
So you
I thought
figure,
did, like,
no, you figure I'm sitting at a desk most of the time. If I work, like if I stayed at home, I'd actually be skinnier because I'm always doing something around the house.
you only walk a half hour though? Those tapes, like, to do a
Well,
an hour
I do 40, 45 minutes sometimes.
Oh.
It depends if I want to do
So
toning
long.
exercises. If I do a 30-minute, then I'll do maybe 15 minutes of toning and then walk in the evening. If I don't do the little toning, then I'll do like maybe 45 in the morning. But those are fun exercises.
They are, I just feel like they take forever.
Yeah, they're fun. They make you feel good. Your spirits are lifted.
Can we,
Can we
Oh.
get to
Get
the
through this,
subject at
See, people
hand?
might want to hear this more.
That's
Really.
true. That's true.
For a
Right,
session.
just for a session. We'll
So
talk
I'm like,
about
well, I'm going to
weight
bed.
loss, carbs, fats. But we're going to be talking about this book by Jeff Cook called Everything New. And that's a good topic to talk about coming into the new year. Everything new.
New car,
New car,
house,
new house.
new earrings.
Yeah, all new selfish stuff.
Yeah.
But we did talk about the New Year's resolutions of how we all want to have a better 2019, how things we might want to change about ourselves for the better. So all things new, and that's the hope of one day, that all things will be new, that all sin will be gone and all struggles and sorrows in this life will be gone, and we'll all be able to live life happy with God, and that's the hope that
That's
we
the
have.
hope.
But a lot of times, don't we think that when we think of heaven and God, we think of God as somewhere out there, or heaven as something to be achieved for after this life. We don't think of God as being right here, and heaven can be here right now. We don't think that way.
But we should.
But we should. And I have a few pictures that Lindsay's going to help me with. And what you're going to have to do, Lindsay, is when I tell you and I give you the thumbs up, I want you to take that picture and put it so that they can see just this section of it, okay? And it'll cover the camera while I'm talking for a few seconds afterwards, okay? So I'll give you the thumbs up when, so that will be your job during this episode of Talk Time, okay? You ready? Do you think you can handle it?
Yeah.
Okay. This is called Revolution. Near the end of his life, Nicholas Copernicus started a revolution. For centuries, most of humanity assumed the earth was the center of the universe, and that all the bodies in the heavens had been placed to serve it. Copernicus, however, spent most of his life looking at the stars, looking at the planets and their motions, and he, along with some others, argued that the motions above didn't make sense. Some planets zigged when they were supposed to zag. They changed course abruptly or even stopped for no reason. Such zagging and halts were predictable, but they didn't make sense. Instead of viewing ourselves as the center of reality, Copernicus suggested we should look at the sun. The sun was grand enough to be the centerpiece of reality. The sun's centrality could hold everything else in orbit. And this idea changed the way humanity saw itself. The earth was dependent. The rest of creation did not revolve around the earth. Something else was bigger. Something else had in fact always been central, and we were just coming to realize it. I often walk through life as though my priorities, my hopes and my dreams, my trajectory are central. I'm sometimes deceived into thinking everything revolves around me for my benefit, but this is false. Bigger realities hold my life in place. On my own, I am really not that important at all. So I'm going to have Lindsay show this little diagram. Lindsay, would you like to take that? Put it towards the camera, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Okay, now they have to see that. Can you see it in there?
Yeah, how long am I gonna hold this for?
Just for a few seconds. Most world religions make this move and affirm something else as transcendent, as holy, as so other that it is worthy of our adoration. This reality, sometimes called God, then becomes the center of a good human life. For we don't really want to be a lonely planet, drifting out into the void of space. We need warmth, we need direction, we need a sun. So if we think of that, of God right there, that would be like the sun. And that's us little people. See the little 3 little dots? We're like little planets just revolving around the sun. Okay? So that's the first diagram. You can bring it over. Isn't this exciting? When I affirm such religious claims, I begin to see the world in 2 ways. First, I see the sacredness of God and everything connected to God, churches, rituals, holy days, and the like. Second, I see myself everyday life. Second, I see my everyday life as something distant from what is holy, still base, still spinning away in its own space. Even when I am in orbit around God, as it were, I am still out in the darkness. And so is the rest of my culture, my friends, and quite obviously so are my enemies. In fact, those who disagree with me are the ones who seem to not even acknowledge the divine and are spinning off into the distance, running into me and warring against my priorities. So this is the kind of concept, what you had just stuck up there, is that God is here, we're revolving around, but a lot of us are still in that darkness. We're still kind of lost. We're still struggling. We see God as something distant, something that we have to be pulled to, that we have to work to get to. This kind of concept of God is common in religion. However, many of the early Christians spent considerable time and effort encouraging others to jump into a very different way of conceiving God. Unlike planets revolving around a stabilizing sun, the Christian picture was not one of us remaining in our own dark void of space, hoping that we remain chained to our sun, divorcing reality into camps that are either holy or secular, worldly or sacred. For the early Christians, Jesus is not only the best image of what their Creator God is like, Jesus is in a unique sense God with us. He pursues us. He's unifying His sphere of heaven with ours. We see the marriage of heaven and earth in His healings as He restored broken bodies. We see the marriage in His command of nature as He overwhelmed hunger, storms, and death. We see the marriage in the resurrection on Easter morning. And as such, the Copernican picture, Lindsay, you can take this picture, just make sure that is showing.
You do that really well.
You do it well. Make sure they can see it. Can they see it all? Picture actually fails to complete and laudable metaphor. The picture the Christians offered was more like this. That to me, I assume that the little crosses are supposed to be Jesus with us, the little people. Okay, Lindsay.
Oh.
Thank you so much for that help. This is what he says now. Jesus is the kind of God who, seeing the dark places we are in, he joins us there. So right there, Jesus has joined us in the dark places. He does not allow us to continue spinning out into the darkness alone. He makes his dwelling with us in our isolation, in our brokenness, in the cold spaces we make our homes. But so too, Jesus pursues our enemies. He moves towards them, seeking their good and hoping for the restoration. Though we often see ourselves spinning out into the void, the dying and rising God is with us and with everyone else. The early Christians' understanding encourages us to shift away from the old Copernican-style picture. In the work of Jesus, they saw God, take this one here. This is the complete picture that we should see. They saw their God instigating a new marriage. In the work of Jesus, they saw their God connecting all of reality to himself. As such, they saw reality far more like this. It's as though the enormity of the sun, which had been so distant for so long, had moved into our sphere and fully engulfed the earth. The good news is nothing less than the grand truth that God is here and heaven has come with him. The resurrection is the event that unites and connects everything about our lives to God who made us. Through the cross and resurrection, a massive door that has been closed was suddenly flung open and locked into place. Now, instead of us working to re-enter God's distant presence, we can know that he has defiantly entered ours. And that is a wonderful thing. So first we have the picture of us kind of just floating around God, trying to stay attached to him. We're out in that outer darkness by ourselves. Next we see the picture of Jesus. Jesus is hanging out with us. He's trying not to let us go, but in all reality we forget that God is here and he has engulfed everything and everyone. And Jesus is right there. But God, this line here, now instead of us working to re-enter God's distant presence, we can know that he has defiantly entered ours. So instead of looking at God as something we have to work to achieve and work to be in his presence, he's already here. He's right here. He's right with us. We can either choose to open that door to let him in or just lock him out.
We either choose to walk with him or choose to walk without him.
Well, he had said here, he showed this picture to some friends, and one who is still wrestling with the idea of Jesus looked at this picture for a long time. When she was ready, she said to me, I don't have to move because he's here with me already. That's faith. That's faith. He's already here.
He's here.
Go ahead, you have something you wanted to read?
I really know. I'm just trying to look something up. I don't see it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that what he's saying is that is the power through which someone's life is remade. Instead of her seeing herself as alone, she saw her life and everything around her saturated with the presence of God. She began to live as though a great reconstruction was taking place. All her behaviors, all her ambitions, all of her dreams and longings suddenly took on an everlasting quality. For years she had been told by her religious friends that because of her past divorce, because of her doubts and questions, she sat on the outside far from God. But none of it was true. Heaven was here and it had come for her. God is coming for us. I mean, we have to seek in order to open that door, but he doesn't stop. He keeps on coming. He invades our space. And he's going to keep on invading our space until we turn to him and see him for who he really is. He's not some distant deity who's sitting up on a throne in judgment. He loves us and he wants us to be a part of him. So we can work all we want. We can keep on thinking that we can work our way to heaven and we can work our way to God. But God and heaven are already here. We just simply have to open the door. Be receptive to Him. Tell me what you would like to speak on, Doug.
Tonya's talk time.
Yeah. See? It's Tonya's talk time. Now it's going to be Doug and Lindsay's.
Tonya's talk.
We're just the listeners.
It even goes Tonya's talk time. It really works.
It does. Tonya's talk time. That's right. It's all T's.
There you
Tonya.
go.
TTT.
TTT.
We're back for another episode of TTT. But, yeah. What do you guys have to
Well, it
say?
kind of reminds me of the one minister we hear speak about grace.
Mhm.
And forgive me, Pastor Kevin, if I get it wrong, but if you are in a submarine and you are 500 feet below the water,
No.
are you in the water?
The water is all around us, but we are not in it at that moment.
You are not getting wet.
We're not
So the
getting
water,
wet.
The water is not affecting you, though you are in the water, you're not being touched by the water.
That's a good way of putting it.
God's grace is the same way. God's grace is everywhere. We are walking in God's grace. But if you do not believe, you are walking in grace, but it is not affecting you.
That's a good
Grace is not touching you. But when you believe, then you are saturated in His grace. Just like if you would open the hatch of the submarine, you would be wet.
Yeah,
So that kind of reminded me of that little analogy that
that's a good
Pastor
analogy.
Kevin talks about.
You got to open
God
that
is
door.
all around us all the time, but until we accept Him, it's not affecting us.
It's not affecting us. Very good. I like that. Very good. It says, if we are willing, we can choose to see heaven. We can choose to see it in our lives of those around us who are transformed, not by lucky flukes or genetics, but by the Spirit of God. We can choose to see it in the life and resurrection of Jesus, and we can see it in ourselves. We can choose to see places in our own story not as accidents, but as real encounters with God. This is heaven, it is here, and it has come for us. We make a mistake when we think of heaven as ever distant, unexperienced, and always a step beyond our lives now. So, we need to start thinking a little bit differently. We need to start knowing that heaven is here right now. And we need to be open to God, and we need to let His love and grace and all that affect our lives. And when that affects our lives, guess what? It affects the lives around us. Just like God's grace, He's filling you with His Spirit, which is leading you to want to help others.
Well, it's looking for heaven. I hear people call them God winks,
Yeah,
where something happens in what we might call coincidence or whatever. But you look at it, that was God. God did that. God
Yeah.
affected that, or I can see God in doing that, or how you think, or what you do, or what somebody else has done. So, are we looking for heaven? Are we looking for God, or aren't we?
well, that's what the guy
We go
talks
through the
about,
day
yeah.
with blinders on, and we aren't even looking for it. So,
Well, that's what the guy talked about earlier in the book, about how we all have different glasses on, which we see through, which would be in that one other book too, about our perspective on things, has to do with our life and everything. So he was an agnostic for a while.
which agnostic means?
Agnostic means that you feel, I think, that you can neither prove nor disprove that God exists. So you're not actually,
You're kind of neutral.
You're
don't
kinda
say that
neutral.
you don't believe.
you just
You're not really
can't
believing.
say that you do. So he was saying, all of us have to start with a point of belief. And whether your point of belief is that you do believe in God or that you don't believe in God or whatever, you have those glasses where you start. So you see everything through those eyes. So if I don't believe in God, I'm going to see everything as a coincidence. I'm going to see that in a different light.
Right.
But if I believe in God, I am going to be looking for Him in different situations in my life and know that He has had a hand in that, or he has had a part, or he has brought that to come. And he talks about being an agnostic, and he talks about these little kids who are bicycling at the beginning of this book. And it's a cute little story, you see here, about how these little kids are, they have like little races every year for these little 5-year-old kids. It's in the neighborhood. And these little kids first start off and they're bicycling and pedaling and
Riding tricycles.
tricycles, that's it, tricycles, not, that's true, because bicycles, yeah, it's tricycles. So they're pedaling, did you read it too?
Mhm.
So you probably read it, I read it before that, so if I'm missing a part, let me know. But these little kids are racing, and at first they seem to be in control of everything. But as the race goes on, and I don't know if you guys remember, but when you tricycle or whatever and you're going down a hill and you start to go too fast, it's almost like you can't keep up.
Yeah, you gotta let go.
You gotta let go. So these little kids, if you can envision, you remember riding down, you put your legs out, and well, the bike had control at that point. You had no control. The tricycle has control. So at the end, these little kids are just going all over the place. They're flying into cars, flying off into sidewalks,
into-
crashing.
What kind of race is this? It's
So I
really
know,
fun.
these are 5. Apparently somebody didn't think too,
Like
wasn't too
that
smart.
cheese
The,
wheel
the,
video.
the parents, what's that?
Cheese wheel
That cheese
video.
wheel, that thing with this guy.
Oh yeah, that would have
Running
been,
down the
yeah,
hill.
that was good.
The cheese wheel video.
Did you show mom the video?
No, I didn't so.
Well, what happened in the cheese wheel? Somebody out of control, same type of thing?
Yeah,
Well,
or,
they
you got
don't
your.
ever seem to have control, but it's like some sort of contest in England. I think it's England. They throw a cheese wheel down this really steep hill, and all these people compete to try to get down the hill first, so that they can win just the cheese wheel. But
wow.
that's all they're trying to get.
Is that
and
cheese
people
wheel?
are literally flipped. Like if this hill is so steep, they've lost all control.
Well, that's
Some of those people would have had broken bones. I mean, it was
tried-
terrible.
We were looking up on it. They tried to like ban that thing, but people still gather like every year, like spontaneously to do this contest. Like they used to have first aid for it, but it just got out of control, so
Oh,
they
my
stopped doing it.
goodness.
But people still.
They still do it.
I'll show you the video.
It's so.
But that's the way this race was.
Well, that's what he's talking
They
about.
started out
They
on a flat
started out,
road and,
yeah.
and then it got steep and
And then it's all,
it's all chaos.
well, what he had, if I can remember correctly, what he was saying was this: when he didn't believe that there was a God, at first he seemed to have control of his life, correct?
I think so, yeah.
And then as time went on, he realized that without God, nothing made sense, and everything in his life was out of control. He needed God to kind of keep control over his
Right.
life, to make his life have purpose
And mean.
and meaning. And without God, that's how he came to that conclusion. And I believe he's a professor.
He is.
And I forget what subject he teaches, but he is do you remember what subject? But he is a professor, he's a well-educated man, and he was an agnostic, but then he started, everything in life just couldn't make sense without God, and his life without God was in chaos. And that's the thing, that was kind of what the little thing of the tricycles, they thought they had it all together,
But
but
they didn't.
they realized they didn't, and I think that's what happened to him. So
He's still a professor too. Now he's a minister also.
oh, okay, I didn't get that far well, that's right, he isn't, okay, yeah. So, but that was a good book too. But on that, I wanted to, I did have people, not too many people wrote in, because this is a hard question. Lindsay, maybe you can think of something that you for Jack, that you might do something for Jack now, even though you know he's too young for it, that you could enjoy with him later in life.
It's something we do now
Something you would do now.
that we could do later.
Something that you might buy or put back, or do something that you know that he's too young for whatever it is now.
Something that I actually have bought, or something.
You could, that's something that you have bought, something you'd like to buy, something you would like to do with him in a future time that you know he's not ready for now.
Disney World. Is that a good example?
That is a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't have it now.
What
Yeah,
brought
right.
that up is this author, when his child was born, he bought him a Harry Potter book,
Mhm.
knowing that this child was not going to understand it. And he wrote a little thing inside the cover.
Yeah.
And then when the child got older, that was something that they could share together. is what the gist of it
That's the whole
was.
gist of it, and I'll read that here in just a minute. It's just like a little over a page, but like somebody here had written, the beginning of every month, when the pension and social security money hits the bank, we transfer a set amount to each grandchild's saving account that we opened in their name at birth. Instead of spending money on toys and stuff each month, can't even speak, which may last a year, we deposit the money. When they graduate from high school, they will be presented the check to use for a car, college, or maybe take old Pappy and Grandma on a trip to the warm, sunny island in January. So that would be a common one, that people would put money back for their children or grandchildren, knowing that they're too young to use it now, but yet that would be something that they would be able to use in the future. Somebody else here had, when my grandson was born, I started collecting bears that each one held a different mint state quarter to give to him someday, hoping they will become valuable as the years go by. I have the complete set in my attic, awaiting to give him someday when he's old enough not just to play with them as a toy. You said as a gun, like a gun, a hunter, if there's an avid hunter, they may buy a gun ahead of time for something that their child and them could do together when the child was older. They're looking forward to a time of being able to spend time with their child doing certain activities. Doug, if you had a workshop, which you'd love to have, you might save certain tools for your kids, or something that you two could work together out in the tool shop. Or if people are car collectors, or they might buy that special car that they know that their child's not ready, but might be a gift for them on their 16th birthday, that they can go out and take a spin in the car with their kid, that type of stuff. Can you think of anything, Lindsay, you'd love to do with Jack? But right now, even though you're not buying him anything, right now, what would be something you would like to do with Jack, but you know he's just not quite
Disney
old enough?
World. I know it
Okay.
doesn't matter now. I don't have anything now that would do, but I'm
Disney
looking
World.
forward
You're
to taking
looking
him there.
forward to it because you love Disney World.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to you, and it would mean a lot to you to be able to spend that time and enjoy
Yeah.
it with your son.
Yeah.
And those are things, and that's what that guy is saying here too. He's talking about the age to come. On his first birthday, I bought my oldest son a copy of The Hobbit, which was only slightly less practical for a...
Lord of the
I thought it
Rings.
was Harry Potter.
Oh, okay. Which was only slightly less practical for a 1-year-old than, say, a new car. The book sat on his shelf unblemished and unread until I brought it down a few weeks ago to look up a passage inside. On the first page, I noticed something was written. It was an inscription, one in my own hand written a few years earlier. It said, "To my beautiful son, I give you this book on your first birthday, knowing that it will be years before we get to read it together. I greatly look forward to the days between now and then, getting to watch you grow, getting to hear you speak, getting to see what your heart is like. And someday, when you are able to understand, we will open the cover and we will read this tale together for the first time. And you and I will journey into new worlds, just as we have journeyed together until now. Your companion and father." So he has 2 boys. Since the birth of his 2 boys, my highest desire in life has been able to see them grow, to celebrate their victories, to lift their heads in trouble, to encourage them strong minds and beautiful souls. I long for the day when we share common pleasures, when we take delight in a movie or a pitcher of beer, enjoy the same ski run or great baseball game together. When I look at my 2 boys, I dream of them becoming the kind of men who can enjoy such treasures with me. This is where he relates that to God. So too, this God has watched our births, watched us take our first few infantile steps. He has watched our many mistakes and helped to pick us up. Though we may have been unaware, this God has watched to see our hearts and our growth. But just as a good father is not content for his little ones to remain little, we may assume God dreams of new days ahead. In the scope of God's future, our tale is just beginning. Perhaps God is pulling back the cover for the first time and leading us to that point where together we can look at the opening chapter and understand his kinds of joys, his kinds of delight, his dreams which color our world now and in its future. God has given us our lives, and he alone has the power to sustain them to grow them, to free them, to even resurrect them and pull us through death into his future. The only question is whether we will desire what he desires, or will we cast that story aside. The invitation has been sent. The door has been opened. It is simply up to us whether we will rise with him. So that kind of says it all.
Yep.
God's grace, his love, everything is all around us. We simply have to look for him and open that door and let him in.
Have you heard the song Reckless Love? Corey Ashbury, is that who?
I think so. Yeah, that's a good song.
Very good song.
Yeah.
How much God loves us. One line in the song is, even when I was your foe, your love fought for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to remember. And you know, we talked earlier about people who have that harsh attitude, who are more thinking of God as vengeful, condemning. But to me, God is loving. And God, just like that Father, he wants to experience things with us. It's up to us whether we want to enjoy God's grace, but if we are suffering and we are not happy and we are always angry, we have to question, are we allowing God's grace to fill our hearts? Are we allowing him to penetrate, just like you talked about being in the submarine? Are we opening that door to let that water in? If we truly have God's love in our heart, we'll see that heart start to soften. And we'll see that we will look at others in a different way, and just look forward to that time when we can enjoy all those treasures with God, our Heavenly Father. So. Talk time with Doug and Lindsay, too.
It doesn't seem to be quite like that, Tonya.
It all goes, to me, and you probably get tired of hearing me saying it all stems back to the word relationship, to me. The relationship starts out small, and the more you learn, the more it grows, the more you understand. And that's the way it is with God. And you realize it. God just wants to be with us, and he wants us to be with him. And it boils down to love.
Yeah. And he doesn't stop. Just like they said about him invading. He's already there. He's already invading.
He doesn't close the door on us. We
No,
close
we
the door
close
on
the door on
him,
him.
but
Yeah.
he's always there,
So,
knocking at the door.
all right. Who would like to close with a word of prayer?
You want to step out of the boat?
I'll try.
Okay.
Okay. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us here tonight in this setting where we can learn with each other. Thank you also for providing with the materials we have. We are so fortunate to live in an age where we have so many people that we can learn from. And we are fortunate to be able to learn from each other too. Help us in the new year to keep the resolutions that we have for ourselves, but also to remember to keep you first, and to remember that the resolutions that we have should revolve around you. Help us to be that light for people. Help us to continue to grow in you so that we can one day be with you. We thank you again just for allowing us to be with each other. And thank you for your love. That's all. It's really all it is about, is just your love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for joining us. It was a wonderful evening, and now we'll all go and read the Bible.
Yeah.
We're not going to turn that TV
TV's on.
Nope.
Good night.
Good night.